overview. Back in the day, I believe it was in January of 1920, Congress ratified the Volstead Act, and that brought in prohibition, the illegally and alcohol. I wanted to point that out just one more time. I want to say Congress ratified the Volstead Act, and I'm not saying, I'm just saying. So the idea, obviously, gambling, booze, all that fun stuff we do on a Saturday night now, was illegal for quite a while. And this place here was originally built as the Tudor house and all that. It's quite a fascinating little structure here. There's a tennis court, there's an Olympic swimming pool right on the other side of this building here that John has had covered over. It's now an Olympic-size concrete slab. And the Tudor house, and then the Brackenfern Manor over there was a house of ill repute, and there are a couple of tunnels that go from the Tudor house to the Brackenfern Manor. They're all closed off now, but they were there. The place was originally meant to be a getaway for the wealthy. You know, back in the day, back in the 20s, air conditioning was not everywhere and prevalent like we see it now. And you wanted to cool off, to get out of the valleys, you'd come up to the mountains. And then when the Depression hit in 1930, or right at the end of 1929, this place was opened up in July 4th, 1928, I believe, 28, 29. It had only been open a short while, and the Depression hit. So all these wealthy patrons that were coming up here dropping their cash, they weren't around anymore. They're all broke now. Great. So the rumors fly. For all intents and purposes, the Los Angeles Mobsters got hold of it. And this building right here, they were brewing moonshine and making beer. The Tudor House became a gambling hall and casino and bar, and then the Brackenfern Manor became a house of ill repute. They had ladies working there. So it was a good time spot. And that's what we're here to commemorate, because obviously over the years, Congress wised up and repealed the Volstead Act and all that, and things have gotten better, and the place has, at times it's been empty, at times there's been everything here from real estate offices to, I don't know what else, ski rentals or something, who knows. But John Connor bought the place a few years ago, and his intent is to turn it back into the Lake Arrowhead in the Pines Resort facility with a more modern flair to it. So he's going to put some conference rooms here in this building. The Tudor House is already open for business, a beautiful place. Take a look in there if you haven't been there yet. The bed and breakfast over in the old Brackenfern Manor is open for business, great spot. You walk in there, it's like walking into the 20s. The furniture, the woodwork, everything, it's just a gorgeous building. And then down below here, it's on the Clampers bench then, the plan is here in a very, very short time, we're going to have a microbrewery. Yeah. And I understand it's going to be ECV friendly. So that's enough for me, is what I've got here. I'm going to turn this over to Michael Kindig, who is our resident historical expert on this facility. And have at it, Michael.
All right. All right, Carl asked me to write the history on this probably a few years ago. And this is the first history I've written for the chapter, although I do a lot of research outside for fun and for work. And what I wanted to do was understand the area, like the county of San Bernardino. Where did it get its name? Where did Lake Arrowhead get its name? Where did the valleys here get its name? So I went off in all directions to try to find kind of a big scope to narrow down into why this place was so special. So the history that I wrote goes back probably at least 10 to 20,000 years ago, and I wanted to bring the emphasis on the Native Americans aspect and the geological aspects that make this place special. The San Bernardino Mountains are part of the transverse ranges of Southern California and were formed by tectonic forces along the San Andreas about 11 million years ago. This tectonic activity created some of the most diverse environments in the state, including both hot and cold springs here. The rich biodiversity resulting from this region was utilized for at least 10 to 20,000 years by the indigenous peoples who traveled here to hunt and to escape the desert heat. The Uhaviatum, or people of the pines, began frequenting this region about 2,500 years ago and named their favorite food gathering and hunting area Uhaviat, or Pine Place. They did not, however, hunt the grizzly bear. Neither was bear meat eaten, nor was fur even worn. They thought of these huge animals as their ancestors and treated them with respect. Spanish missionaries in the late 1700s named these people Serrano, or mountaineer or Highlander. In 1810, Spanish priest Francisco Dumetz established a supply station at a location between Mission San Gabriel Archangel and the Colorado Desert. On May 20th, a capilla, or chapel, was completed at Gachama, which means a place of abundant food and water, and Dumetz named the valley after San Bernardino of Siena, who died on this day in 1444. So this is where the name comes from for San Bernardino. The exact location where the capilla was established, controversy exists regarding the evidence of this expedition, where the exact location was, and the date. What is not controversial is that the name San Bernardino was later applied to the mountain, the forest, the city, and the county. In May of 1842, Paiute chief Wakera and nearly 100 of his followers, including 4 mountain men, conducted one of the largest livestock raids in California history. The group of horse thieves and cattle rustlers drove a herd that numbered in the thousands into the high desert. In 1845, Benjamin Davis Wilson, otherwise known as Don Benito, was asked to pursue this renegade group of marauders and assembled a posse of 44 men composed of Californios and New Mexicans. He sent 22 men through the Cajon Pass and led the remaining 22 men through the San Bernardino Mountains. The posse found neither the stolen herd nor Wakera. What Wilson did find was Uhaviat, the ancient and mysterious forest swarming with grizzly bear. However, unlike the Uhaviatum, Wilson and his men hunted the grizzly and skinned them for their fur. This event prompted Wilson to refer to this area as Bear Valley. Now we get to the notion of Arrowhead and where the name came from Arrowhead. On the southern face of the San Bernardino Mountains, clearly visible from the San Bernardino Valley, is a landmark in the shape of an arrowhead. The landmark is 1,375 feet long, 449 feet wide, covers 7.4 acres, and is at an elevation of 2,800 feet. It is unknown how and when this peculiar landmark was formed. Indigenous people of various tribes in the area recount their respective creation stories that include an arrow of light that came from the skies. There is no mention of the landmark found within the journals of Spanish expeditions in the 1770s, the Dumetz expedition in 1810, which I mentioned, the Mormon settlers in the 1850s, or the Transcontinental Railroad Survey compiled by Robert Stockton Williamson in 1853. The first evidence of this landmark is a photograph taken in 1864, which shows the original buildings of Arrowhead Springs Hotel. In 1857, a young immigrant from Ohio named David Noble Smith proposed to establish a hygienic infirmary at a location referred to by Spanish missionaries as Agua Caliente. In 1863, he opened a road to the hot springs and constructed the original infirmary building and bathhouses. In 1864, he opened the hot springs as a resort, Arrowhead Springs Hygienic Infirmary, or Arrowhead Springs Hotel, and managed it until his death in 1885. Controversy exists regarding the origin of the landmark. What is not controversial is that Smith was the first person to bestow the name of Arrowhead to the hot springs, and the Arrowhead name was later applied to companies, the lake, and the city. On consecutive years, the Arrowhead Springs Hotel burned down in 1885, in 1895, and 1938, and it was operated until 1962. Elber Belden, a fellow clamper, suggested that Arrowhead Springs probably has the distinction of having more untruths written about it and recorded as fact than any other place, with a possible exception of Death Valley. Now I want to get into the logging mills, because this gets into, so that's the county, getting into the names of the valley, and I want to get into this area of the property. A lot of logging was happening by the Mormons in this time because there was virgin timber around this area. In 1857, many logging operations changed ownership when Brigham Young recalled the Mormons to Utah. Sawmill owners quickly sold their sawmill businesses or equipment to willing buyers. In 1860, William Stewart LaPrée purchased equipment and opened the Excelsior Sawmill in Little Bear Valley. In 1885, he moved his mill to a different location in Little Bear Valley to shorten the distance from the mill to the trees he was cutting. His mill was producing between 600,000 and 1 million board feet of lumber per year. In 1887, LaPrée was accidentally killed when he fell into his machinery. His nephew, James Fleming, inherited his estate that not only included the mill, but 1,700 acres of virgin timber. In 1891, Fleming sold his operations, which he had renamed Fleming Creek Sawmill, to the Arrowhead Reservoir Company. Fleming Creek runs through this property. In the 1800s, most sawmills were producing about 6 million board feet of lumber per year. By 1890s, most of the large sawmills closed down in Little Bear Valley, but opened up in Running Springs. In 1899, the Brookings Lumber Company, the largest logging company operation ever in the San Bernardino Mountains, operated on 8,000 acres and produced between 10 and 12 million board feet of lumber per year. In 1905, logging in the San Bernardino Mountains peaked, and by 1911, most of the virgin timber area was gone. In 1912, the Brookings Lumber Company ceased production and moved to Oregon. Now I want to get into Little Bear Valley as opposed to Bear Valley and the naming of Lake Arrowhead. In April 1859, gold was discovered in Bear Valley and miners began working claims all over the San Bernardino Mountains. During this time, another valley was discovered to the west of Bear Valley, near what is now referred to as Lake Arrowhead. The new valley was called Little Bear Valley to distinguish it from neighboring Bear Valley. The prefix little referred not to the size of Bear, but to the size of the valley. In 1890, San Bernardino engineer Adolph Heliodor Kobig had a plan to capture the vast watershed within the San Bernardino Mountains and supply it to San Bernardino Valley. The plan was to collect the tributaries from the headwaters of the Mojave River above 4,800 feet, to store this watershed in one or more reservoirs, and to deliver it for irrigation purposes to the valley below. He selected Little Bear Valley as the location for a large reservoir and dam and traveled to Cincinnati, Ohio to seek funding for the project. In December of 1890, the Arrowhead Reservoir Company filed articles of incorporation in Kentucky. Principal shareholders included James Norris Gamble, the son of Procter & Gamble co-founder James Morris Gamble, and James Edwin Mooney from LA. In 1892, construction on the dam began in Little Bear Gorge. Land was purchased around the proposed reservoir and water rights were obtained. In 1905, the Arrowhead Reservoir Company reincorporated as the Arrowhead Reservoir and Power Company. In 1918, the reservoir was filled for the first time. The resulting lake covered 782 acres, was 185 feet deep, and was called Little Bear Lake. On December 22nd, 1919, Mooney died. In 1921, the lake and over 5,000 acres of land around the lake were purchased by the Arrowhead Lake Company, a group of Los Angeles millionaires, for the sum of $625,000, with plans to develop a private resort for the elite. This group of millionaires included James Benton Van Nuys, the son of San Fernando farmer and rancher Isaac Newton Van Nuys, and Los Angeles attorney John Mulvaney. In 1922, the dam was completed, Lake Arrowhead Village was established, and the reservoir was renamed from Little Bear Lake to Lake Arrowhead. Carl and John alluded both to the Hollywood and the mob having access to this area. This is the section I want to talk about of where that came from. More than 150 movies have been filmed in the San Bernardino Mountains. Maxwell Henry Aronson, often referred to as the father of the movie cowboy, was one of the first persons to use San Bernardino Mountains on film. On March 11, 1911, he released a silent short film entitled The Romance on the Bar O, which he not only directed, but wrote, produced, and starred under the name Gilbert M. Bronco Bill Anderson. Cecil Blunt DeMille, acknowledged as a founding father of Hollywood film industry, was another person to use San Bernardino Mountains on film. On February 15th, 1915, he released a silent film entitled The Squaw Man, starring William Faversham. Filming peaked around 1940 and 1970, but several movies continue to be filmed here. As Carl also alluded to, on January 16, 1920, when Congress ratified the 18th Amendment, a nationwide prohibition period began that would last for nearly 13 years. As a result, those who found pleasure in drinking, or the potential profits therein, found entrepreneurial ways around the law. Between 1930 and 1940, moonshine was illegally produced throughout the San Bernardino Mountains, and bootlegging as well as gambling and prostitution operated quite effectively in those remote places. In December of 1938, the Arrowhead Springs Hotel was purchased by the Arrowhead Springs Corporation, a Hollywood consortium, for the sum of $800,000 with plans to develop a high-end health spa for the elite. This consortium included 20th Century Fox founders Joseph M. Schenck, Darrell M. Zanuck, and William B. Bill Getz, Jacob J. Paley, the uncle of Columbia Broadcasting System, founder William S. Paley, leading actresses Constance Bennett and Claudette Colbert, and singer-comedian Al Jolson. The Arrowhead Springs Corporation was also purchased Fish Camp Ski Resort, which is where we all camped over this weekend. Unfortunately, the hotel fell into financial trouble within a year, was briefly leased to Hollywood reporter William Richard Billy Wilkerson, and closed in 1941. Wilkerson used his experience from the Arrowhead Springs Hotel toward a new project in Nevada. Financial investments and construction guidance soon came from Benjamin Hyman Bugsy Siegelbaum, a mobster who moved from New York to Los Angeles in 1936. Siegel developed a friendship with Wilkerson when he began visiting his nightclubs, but eventually edged Wilkerson out and took over the project that he would later become famous for. On December 26, 1946, the Flamingo Hotel and Casino opened in the Los Vegas Strip. Less than a year later, on the night of June 20th, 1947, Siegel was shot dead in his girlfriend's Beverly Hills home. So this lays the premise for the area. It's being used by the Hollywood elite. Some real estate agents get wind of what's going on. And this is the rise of the Atkins Corporation. In 1918, two sets of brothers conducted business together, Samuel and William Markowitz from Missouri, and Joshua F. and Milton F. Simmons from Wisconsin. The Markowitz brothers operated clothing and dry good businesses in Venice as early as 1923. Having developed mutual ideas and sharing a desire to build a noteworthy business together, William Markowitz and Joshua Simmons organized three corporations in Los Angeles: Atkins Realty Company for the purposes of public sales, Atkins Corporation for the purposes of holding the leases, and Atkins Development for the purpose of construction. The principal headquarters were located in the Pacific National Bank building in Los Angeles. On December of 1925, the Atkins Realty Corporation Company purchased 160 areas of land in the amount of $100,000 from Elda Wagner Fleming, the widow of James Fleming, who you heard about earlier. The property, known as Fleming Woods, was the largest piece of privately held land around Lake Arrowhead. Their original vision was to subdivide the land into lots, to erect summer homes on those lots, and to create a unique recreational center that would both adhere to the high standards of the Lake Arrowhead community and to stand above other mountain properties being offered to the public. This vision culminated into Arrowhead Villas and Club Arrowhead in the Pines, one of the first mountain recreation resorts ever planned. In 1926, construction began on the complex of buildings that would transform the old Fleming Woods estate into the new Arrowhead Villas and Club Arrowhead of the Pines. The buildings included private homes comprising the Arrowhead Villas and the clubhouse, the bathhouse, the administration buildings, the stores comprising Club Arrowhead and the Pines. On February 27, 1926, the Atkins Realty Company ran a special 15-day pre-opening offer in the newspapers. They marketed Arrowhead Villas as income property, whereby they would sell their client a lot, and upon payment in full for the lot, they would finance, build, and furnish a home that could be used by the client or rented to the public. The offer made claims that all improvements would be put in absolutely free of cost to the buyer. On July 4th, 1928, Club Arrowhead in the Pines officially opened. To coincide with this milestone, Markowitz and Simmons published their first newsletter called Atkins Activities, along with an illustrated brochure with more details about the commercial mountain resort they were building. With respect to Arrowhead Villas, the newsletter and brochure teased potential buyers with options of one-room cottages, double cabins, or spacious lodges. Each mountain home was replete with electric lights and running water, private bath and showers, fireplaces or wood stoves, and kitchens or kitchenettes. Pure mountain spring water was piped to every site, and telephone service would be available. Furnishings were also provided by pioneer furniture company Barker Brothers. Of the 1,500 available lots, 80 of those had mountain homes built on them. With respect to Club Arrowhead in the Pines, the newsletter and brochure enticed potential buyers with descriptions of myriad recreational opportunities such as swimming, golf, tennis, horseback riding, boating, fishing, and hunting, all for a $250 associate life membership. The newsletter and brochure also flaunted winter recreational opportunities such as ice skating, snowshoeing, tobogganing, and skiing, featuring the first downhill ski run with a single tow line in the San Bernardino Mountains. Over $1,500,000 was invested to make Club Arrowhead in the Pines an exceptional recreational center. The main clubhouse was generously proportioned and contained a spacious lounge 40 feet wide by 90 feet long with lofted ceiling. The lounge included a radio, grand piano, and a polished maple floor for dancing. On special events, an orchestra would play there. The clubhouse also contained a dining room, library, fireplace, and game rooms. Adjacent to the main clubhouse was an Olympic-sized swimming pool filled with pure mountain spring water. The nearby bathhouse contained lockers and showers, lifeguards were on duty, and swimming instructors could be requested. The club property included concrete tennis courts, and tennis lessons could be requested. It maintained a stable of horses for horseback riding, and trainers could be requested. There was also a children's playground, which included a wading pool, sand court, swing and teeter-totter, and marble chute. Less than a mile from the property was lovely Lake Arrowhead, which provided members with boating, fishing, and hunting opportunities. Trout, perch, and catfish were restocked annually for interested anglers, and ducks were abundant for waterfowl hunters. The club also had access to a 9-hole championship golf course and practice putting green. On September 13, 1928, Markowitz and Simmons filed articles of incorporation for the Arrowhead Villas Club at the San Bernardino County Clerk's Office. The new company would be headquartered in Los Angeles and had large holdings in the Lake Arrowhead district. On August 29, 1929, Markowitz and Simmons filed articles of incorporation for the Arrowhead Villas Mutual Service Company at the San Bernardino County Clerk's Office. The new company would principally supply electricity and water to the Arrowhead Villas, as well as mountain roads and playgrounds. The new company was capitalized for $170,000, divided into 1,700 shares at a value of $100 per share. I'm going to skip over a little bit of the Tudor house and go into, John will talk about that.